What's up, guys? We're wrapping up the PowerCon Classics exclusives today with a look at the big 3-pack, and just like with, Zombie He-Man, impatience has gotten the better of me, and I can't wait. So we're going to open them now while I'm at the hotel, and then we'll take a look at them for real when I get home. So we've got these guys here. We got Slamurai, the Snake Troopers, the final figures in Classics form that are kind of recreating the stuff that never got made in the vintage line. So these would have rounded everything out, and it kind of finishes things off in a very nice, complete package. So we've got Slamurai, the Snake Troopers here in our pretty familiar 3-figure box. Green, gray skull bricks down there up at the top, figures in the window, and then of course you've got some fantastic Axel Jimenez artwork on the back with Slamurai just giving it to the Snake Troopers, and then you've got bios for both figures down there at the bottom. Just one bio for the Snake Troopers because they're an army builder. But yeah, great presentation, stellar artwork, and I could not be more excited to open these guys up. I have been waiting for Snake Troopers for a very long time, so let's get to it. And here they are, our PowerCon exclusive 3-pack with the 2 Snake Troopers and Slamurai. So we've got basically, the end of what would have been the vintage run had these ever come out, and they're finally here in Classics form. And I'll be honest, I've been really looking forward to this set, maybe even more than the Zombie Slime Pit He-Man, just because I've really wanted these stupid Snake Troopers for so long. I just like the idea behind them. I love Snake Men, I love Horde Troopers, so it's kind of the best of both worlds for me. I'm really happy with how these turned out. And honestly, this Slamurai figure is pretty cool. So we're going to jump right in and take a look. We're going to look at Slamurai first, and then we will come back to our Horde Trooper Snake Men. So Slamurai here is obviously, he's Ninja, so he's exactly what you think he is. He is, of course, a white ninja, which in all honesty makes zero sense. There is no stealth going on here, but I would be lying if I said I did not really like how this figure turned out just from an aesthetic standpoint. I think he looks really cool. So as far as articulation goes, it's what you think it is. So you've got a ball peg up here at the head. He goes backwards a little bit. He goes down, side to side rotation. Arms go out, they rotate. You've got bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, and you've got wrist rotation. He does, of course, have an ab crunch. He has a soft plastic piece over top of him, so we've seen this before in the line. It does get in the way a little bit. Not really on the backside, but when you go forward, it hits a little bit, but it's not too bad. Legs go out. Kick forward, kick back. He's got a really big belt here, of course, so it does get in a little bit of the way, but not too bad. And then you can rotate in the thigh, single jointed knee. You've got nothing at the boot because he doesn't have boots, and then you've got your hinges down at the ankles. So he's pretty standard MOTU Classics fare. It's exactly what you expect it to be if you've played around with any of these figures, but he moves around well, and it just like with the He-Man figure previously, the Zombie He-Man, this is, again, a Mattel figure. It's not Super 7, and it feels like an older Mattel figure. It feels like they're plastic. So it's one of those things where you get that kind of tactile response, and you kind of know what you're working with here. And he feels really good. He moves really well. Still, we're working with a little bit of outdated articulation at this point, but it's exactly the kind of stuff that I expected to get. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, as far as the aesthetics go, I really like this guy. Of course, he's Ninja, so he's a white version, and the white is very striking on this guy. He does have a little bit of an overspray on the body, so you've got kind of like a blue shading thing going on for the majority of like the legs and the arms. But the tunic that he has is incredibly bright, and even with the overspray, a lot of the body on this figure is incredibly bright. You can see it for yourself. He kind of shines like a beacon, and it's the weird, he's a ninja, but he's clad in all white, so he's going to get caught, I guess, but it's still really nice to look at. I'm a big fan of just, in general, this look. It works. The nice kind of blue-gray that he has going on with the metallic blue accents for the dragon on his chest work really well. The white and the blue, they just kind of contrast with each other nicely, and I'm a big fan of it. Of course, you've got the port on his back for accessories, which we'll talk about. He has the big kind of ostentatious belt here with the big rope, and this can come off. It pegs in right here, so you can just pop it off if you want, but you've got the big ropes that hang down with kind of the dragon's head here, more paint applications on there, and then as with any other Mattel MOTU Classics figure, his
tunic, the rubbery piece that sits over top of his chest, is removable, and we're going to talk about that more when we get to accessories because it's actually necessary on this figure to utilize some of these accessories. And again, for the most part on the figure, you do have a little bit of overspray on the arms that run down the side, and then you've got it down on the legs. It helps to bring out the musculature in the body because otherwise a lot of it will be lost in kind of the void of this white color because he is pure white. There's really nothing else in the plastic on this guy. It's until they hit him with that overspray where he kind of comes to life a little bit. But all of that is, of course, in a little bit of a contrast to the sheer white that's on the tunic with all those kind of metallic accents from the blue on the dragon to some of the kind of pearly silver that runs around the collar up there. And then, of course, you've got this head sculpt here, which looks fantastic. There's a little bit of facial detail on this guy, only what you can see. You've got a little bit of the eyes, which are a nice pearly blue, which match, of course, the dragon. You've got those big black eyebrows and a little bit of the upper face. So you've got the nose and around the eyes, but then you've got this enclosed hood, which looks really, really nicely done. There's not a whole lot to it, but it actually has a lot of character with some of the wrinkles and then the seams that are sculpted in there. So it's stuff that we're familiar with, but it looks really good, and it's nice to see it in a different shade this time. Now, as far as accessories for Slamurai goes, he has quite a bit. I mean, it's really stuff we're all familiar with, but he has a pretty good arsenal of weaponry, and then he's got an extra head sculpt. So we do have a cyclone-style head here to kind of change him up, put a different hat on him, basically. And he's got that kind of techno headgear with the blue bands that run around, and it keeps some of the same accents here. So you've got those bushy black eyebrows and the pearlescent blue eyes to kind of tie it all together with the original head sculpt. So I'm not sure I'm going to use this, but I like the idea behind it, and I mean, it works well. The colors all kind of go together. You've, of course, got the nunchuck here, which does not have a metal chain or anything, but it's got a very rubbery texture, so you can kind of mold it around, and it'll stay pretty well. And then you've got all of the same stuff that you would expect to see if you're familiar with Ninjor. He's got the, the quiver of arrows that peg into the back with some pearlescent blue tips down there. They're not removable or anything. You do have the very vintage-esque style bow here, which is a little bit of a challenge to get him to hold in any kind of two-handed pose, but you can get him to do a decent pose. And then you've got a katana here, which clips into that slot there. Just a gray plastic with a little whitewash on it to bring out some of that sculpted detail. But it can all fit on the figure, which I'm a big proponent of that. I love when my figures can have all their accessories on them at all times, so I don't have to store stuff or lose stuff. But that's not all this guy comes with. He has another little nod to the vintage line, and we have to really change his clothing to make it all work. So in a nod to kind of the vintage Ninjor figure, he had a cloth tunic that was over his chest. Slamurai comes with a replacement tunic as well. So like I mentioned, you can take all the armor and the belt off of this guy. They just pop off like any other MOTU Classics figure. And then you've got this tunic that you put on him, and you can wrap around this little piece of fabric right here that has Velcro on it to make a belt. He does have a furry loincloth underneath there as well, and they even made the belt a pearlescent blue, so if you really wanted to, you can still kind of change him up that way as well. I really think that this is a cool idea. I'm not sure I'm going to display him this way because I don't really care about this particular look, but I like it. It does work really, really well, surprisingly well. These soft goods are, I wouldn't call them soft. They're actually really rough fabric, but they work well, and they hang surprisingly nicely on this really beefy body. The only real reason I don't think I'm ever going to use this is because with this, you have no way to secure any of his other accessories on. So you're only going to have the ability to have him hold stuff. The only way to actually put that quiver on is with the slot on the back of the rubbery armor. So you've got a couple options here, and I just think it's cool that they gave us this. It's a nod to the vintage line while also giving us something that we don't really see in classics, and it works. If you like this look, you have the ability to do it. Now for our Snake Trooper here, this guy, sort of like Slamurai, but not entirely like Slamurai, is 100% familiar territory. He's just not from the same figure. So we know what to expect going into this guy, and he moves around about what I thought he would. So the head can look up, and he can look down, and you can rotate side to side. You do have a little pivot bobble action, but not much. Give him a little attitude there. The arms go out, they rotate. You do, of course, have your bicep swivel. You've got a single jointed elbow, but it's really, really limited, just like on the Horde Troopers. You've got your wrist rotation as well. And then you've got waist twist. You've got an ab crunch. We can go backwards and forwards. The big armor piece is going to get in the way. Legs go out. They kick forward and back. You've got a cut in there at the thigh. Single jointed knee. you've got boot cut, and then you've got your hinges down there at the ankle. So he is very, very familiar territory. It's exactly what you would expect to see in this kind of figure. He moves around well enough, but maybe not quite as well because of some of those limitations with the armor, but he still looks really menacing no matter what pose you put him in. Now, as far as the overall look and feel for these guys, I gotta say right off the bat, I'm a big fan of this design. I like this thing. It's goofy, it's a weird mashup, it's a Frankenstein of parts, but I really, really, really like this. This is the kind of goofy stuff that speaks to me as a MOTU fan. So we have, of course, a black Horde Trooper, sort of, and Snake Man mashup. So this guy is not just a Horde Trooper, you probably already know that, but you have got the Horde Trooper from kind of the crotch up, and then you've got the legs of a character that's kind of like King Hiss. You've also see that on, say, Fangor has those legs. And then you've got Hordax boots down here. Of course, we've got Snake Men, specifically Ratlore heads on these guys. And I could have sworn, I guess I'm wrong at this point, but I could have sworn that originally these were not Ratlore heads. I thought they were something else. So I was kind of surprised when I finally got this in hand thinking, well, that's not right. But here we are. So we do have the same heads, but they are different decos. Now, as far as the overall design here, I mean, it's a black Horde Trooper basically with some Snake Men legs, and I really, really dig it. I'm a big fan of this. Of course, you've got the red accents for the Horde emblem on the chest. You've got some gold there, and it's got all of those kind of big techno Horde style parts. You can, of course, take the armor off, and if you do that, you've got that robo style body that's underneath there. So it's not a traditional buck, it's that more robotic style body. It's just a cool look. I mean, that's really all it comes down to for me. It's an amalgamation of Horde parts with Snake Men parts, and they work surprisingly well. He's not quite as beefy as a Horde Trooper because you kind of thin out at the legs, but I like this look. I think it looks really cool, and I'm glad they added the Hordak boots on there. It makes him look a little bit more Snake Man-ish down at the bottom, rather than giving him some sort of big Horde boots. So I think it's a really cool look. It works well. He is a little limited in articulation, but I think it works well from kind of a menacing standpoint. This is definitely not a thing you would want to mess around with. The real downside to this is that, well, if you want a bunch of these, you had to buy a bunch of 3-packs, and you're never going to get another opportunity to get these guys again. So I really do like this look. The sculpt on it's great. It's all, again, familiar territory, but it all looks really, really nice. It's just a cool looking figure, and it's the kind of cool, weird stuff that I really like. Of course, now when we're talking about these heads, I'm a big fan of Ratlore. He's my favorite Snake Man, so seeing this wasn't necessarily a disappointment, it was just more of a confusion. I guess I'm wrong again, but we do have a pretty solid head sculpt here. I really do like the Ratlore head. I think they did a good job with this. And you've got a kind of muted green over here, and then you've obviously got a really, really bright green. Insides of the mouths are painted, those bright white fangs. And then you do have a little bit of a design on the top of the heads that are painted a little differently. Some diamonds over on this one here, and whatever you want to call these things on this one over here. So they are really, really similar. You know, they're almost identical figures. The only real difference is the heads, and the only real difference on the heads are color and those top designs. But I think they look cool, and I think it works really, really well with this body. Now, as far as accessories for these guys, they unfortunately don't really come with much of anything. Unlike the Horde Trooper that comes with an absolute arsenal of accessories, these guys only come with one accessory each, and they come with one of my least favorite accessories in the entire line. It's this weird thing that Blast Attack has, and I think it's goofy looking. It's definitely a weird and kind of funky looking accessory, so it'll stand out amongst a bunch of other weapons. I just always thought it was kind of weird. It just seems very, very useless to me. But otherwise, I mean, you've got kind of like a mustardy gold. It matches the gold on their arms, and then a little bit of metallic gold on the blade here, and then on some of the little buttons down here. So it's a big weapon. It definitely will stand out on the shelf. I kind of wish they came with more. And the one thing that I really wish they came with, and who knows why they didn't come with this, I really wish they came with a black Horde Trooper helmet. Despite the fact that they've got Snake Men lower halves, I really think it would have been an awesome idea if they included Horde Trooper helmets with these, so you could have had basically a full black Horde Trooper. I know, for one, I would have bought more had I had that come with it. But they didn't, so all you get is this goofy guy here. So overall, this is a really awesome set. The only real negative that I have about anything in this is really not even a negative. It's just something that I wish was included. You know, like I said, I wish they had a black Horde Trooper helmet. Otherwise, I am a really big fan of everything in this set. It's all wacky, weird, goofy parts reuse MOTU stuff, and I really, really like that kind of stuff. So, you know, this just kind of speaks to me. I think Slamurai is a really awesome figure. He is very, very cool next to Ninjor. They contrast so well. And the Snake Troopers, I mean, come on, it's Horde Troopers and Snake Men combined. What is not to love about that? It works really, really well despite how different some of those characters actually are. And then it's just a fun 3-pack. That's really all it comes down to. These are fun figures, and it's some of the last MOTU Classic stuff we're likely going to be getting for a long time, if not ever. So I'm pretty happy with the end result here. I think Mattel did a bang-up job with these. It's interesting to have to say that again. Mattel did a great job with MOTU Classics figures, but here we are. So that's going to do it for this look at the PowerCon 2019 Slamurai and Snake Trooper 3-pack. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, all that jazz. And until next time.